Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And thank you to all of you that are testifying today. It's a great resource to have, and we appreciate your willingness to do this. One of the most concerning portions of this bill for me is the section setting up government funding for financing of political campaigns. This concerns me for two specific reasons. First, we are approaching a $30 trillion matter. And, I firmly believe in addressing this debt is a fundamental responsibility that we have that is necessary to keep our economy at full strength for future generations. Putting the government on the hook to pay for political campaigns is a step toward further unnecessary spending and further debt at a time when we need to be getting our fiscal house in order. Second, I am concerned that this program will effectively force Americans to subsidize speech that is fundamentally against their beliefs. For example, pro-life Americans will have to pay through their tax dollars for ads promoting candidates who support abortion on demand. Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask you about this. I know you've dedicated so much time in defending our First Amendment freedoms, especially as it relates to political speech rights. How might this sort of government financing of campaigns envisioned under this legislation endanger rights of consciousness and freedom of speech?
Well, I think it's recognized that this is very unpopular, which is why the act, like I say, includes this language saying, oh, we're not going to use any tax dollars for it, but then immediately proceeds to set up a system using tax dollars for it, right? I mean, they're not income tax dollars, but it's money that belongs to the federal fisc. It can be spent on other things if it's not spent on these campaigns, or we could give it back to the taxpayers, right? So it is government funding. And it is a problem. In fact, the system's more problematic than that because it's got a big match. I believe it's a 6-to-1 match. So, if a party goes out and somebody goes out and gives, $50 to a campaign that you really hate, and it might be somebody really terrible, by the way. We've had cases of neo-Nazis and so on getting money in some of these programs in the States. Then the federal government gives 6 times that to that candidate. And so I do think that's a very serious problem that Americans, I think, don't like that. I prefer to think that we should be funding campaigns, the people, right, not the government. And one of the other problems with this kind of system is that it makes everything a scandal. In other words, it leads the government into more and more campaigning. Well, what can you say? They require you to say certain things or not say certain things because now you're spending public money. Once you're spending public money, the government has an interest in how it's spent. And that has very dangerous implications in the long run for campaigns.
Thank you. Also, my second question, while I have a little time left, this law would expand the definition of what's covered by Federal Election Campaign Act to include any paid internet or paid digital communication, as the conversations we've just had. This comes at a time when we have seen a rise in internet censorship by big tech companies just over the past few years. The problem of social media censorship is affecting so many across our society. I've heard from many just everyday Mississippians who have had their posts blocked or deleted, or even their accounts locked, because they are certainly monitoring this closely. And Mr. Goodman, can you explain what the expanded definitions in this legislation could mean for freedom of speech on social media sites?
Yes, Senator. Under this bill, anytime you want to talk about a matter of public policy, and you don't even have to mention a politician or a candidate, you are forced to disclose who you are, who your board of directors is, the audience to which you are communicating, and you go into a public file and library for everyone to see who you are, what your home address is, and what you had to say. And this bill also imposes upon the social media platforms, and it's not just social media platforms, Senator. It's the WashingtonPost.com, it's NewYorkTimes.com, it's WallStreetJournal.com. All of these sites that sell advertising on the internet are going to, this one bill makes them both the policeman to make sure foreign actors don't slip through the cracks, and at the same time makes them criminally responsible if they fail at that task. Now, that is a task that the FBI and our National Security Agency failed at in 2016. And now we're putting that burden and making them both police and criminal in one bill. And do you know what the result will be? If we're worried about selective censorship now, these social media sites will simply close their platform because of the cost and burdens and potential liability to all citizens. And that is not a constructive result. It is not pro-democratic. And because we will lose these low-cost platforms for advertising because the cost just will not be worth it.
Thank you very much for your answer. I yield, Madam